Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I finally took my braids out and so it's time to style my hair. Just washed it and yesterday we took our final exam for our CPK module, so cardio, pulm, renal. So I just kind of wanted to like talk about like how I felt finishing my first like organ systems block module, whatever you want to call it, while I do this crazy head of mine. First, let me get all my products together. I have my amazing like Spritz spray bottle, which literally saved my life. No longer need my scissors, so let me put them up. My Cream of Nature Pure Honey Curl Activator, that is like my go-to. I just use this line's like conditioner and then their like leave-in detangler. And then I actually was gifted this at a recent event that I attended. It's Scotch Porter Moisturize Rich Leave-In Hair Conditioner. So I'm actually gonna try it, just see like the texture, see if it works for my hair. And of course, you literally cannot do your hair without oil. So I have my Jamaican black castor oil, of course. So let me just get myself set up and then we can dive into the med school. Yeah, so med school, I will just say, I'm just gonna say like content wording, like definitely gonna be talking about mental health, and I'm just gonna be like totally honest with you guys. So I just wanted to share that content warning up front. I can't even explain like the feeling that I felt, like the relief when I like took that exam yesterday, even though when I was, oh no, even though when I was taking the exam, I literally realized while I was taking it that I forgot to watch a whole lecture. So that just goes to show how my life is going right now. But let me just say, okay, so my school, like we have a new curriculum. We're the new 1-year preclinical. So like our curriculum is totally new. First year they've ever done it. And they also decided to do renal, then pulm, then cardio, which I think like traditionally, how they've done it. And then also how a lot of schools do it is cardio, then pulm, then renal. So just like, oh my God, y'all, this actually smells amazing and I feel like it's kind of doing wonders on my curls, so I think I'm gonna keep using it. But yeah, so it's like super stressed, just like the unknowns, which like, yeah, I get it. I signed up for school that was like a new curriculum, but like you're gonna tell me you were gonna teach renal first. But like in hindsight, like I think it was fine. I don't think I was like hindered in any way from starting with renal, but I can't compare it because of course like I didn't go through a curriculum that taught cardio first, so I can't say like which one's better or worse. But overall I feel like it was fine, like I wasn't disadvantaged. But let's say we started this module in like November, and during that time like there was just a lot happening like med school wise and then personally in my life, and so like mentally I hit like my rock bottom for medical school, which was like really hard. And when I say like rock bottom, just like in terms of like I pretty much always dealt with anxiety, depression, but like I started taking medication for my anxiety like maybe a year and a half ago, and so like that was like pretty much under control. And like I'd moved to New York, like I didn't experience a lot of homesickness, like I was thriving, and then all of a sudden like life hit the fan. And I was really struggling with depression, and because I was taking medication for my anxiety, Lexapro, I was like connected with psychiatry at my school already because I had to see a psychiatrist to like get my medications prescribed. But I had decided like I didn't want to go to therapy like when I first got here, things like that, because life was going good. And so then all of this happened, and I literally was just like, I don't want to be in New York anymore, like I can't do this. And this all happened like a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving break, and then I feel like I really hit rock bottom like a couple of days before I was supposed to go home. So I just changed my flight. My parents were like amazing, so I was like, hey, we need to go home. Next thing you know, like I was back in South Carolina, and I was just able to like deal with life and all of my emotions like in a place that felt like safe and comfortable for me. But needless to say, like there was like 2 weeks where I just like was so mentally like not here that like I was like barely like making it through lecture if I was even watching the lecture. And so this was the beginning of renal. So it's kind of hard because I passed that exam, but like not with flying colors at all, which is fine because my school's pass fail, but like I feel like essentially I didn't get the foundation that I needed in renal. So essentially we had like 2 renal exams. So like this all happened in the first renal exam. And so then when it comes down to like the second renal exam and they're like referencing things from the first one, I'm like, I literally just learned enough to like do the bare minimum. Like I just like physically couldn't, and like things just happen so fast in medical school that I didn't feel like there's never time to like catch up. So I was just like trying to stay ahead in renal 2, and then we hit home, and then of course cardio. And it just feels like things kept building, and I never really had a chance to catch up because the first 2 weeks of the block, the module, the unit, whatever you want to call it, like I was just like not here mentally. But like in terms of mental health wise, like going home was really great. And then because everything happened, I was like, you know what, girl, like we need to start going to therapy. Like I don't love talking about my feelings, but I've become like more comfortable with it. Just like having my friends that I have here and like going through life, like I just started realizing like you have to talk about your feelings. Like there's just like simply like no way to handle everything on your own. And so I started doing that, and therapy has been amazing. I got connected with an amazing therapist through my school, which is great. And so like in terms of like mental health, like I feel like I'm like getting a better grip on like my anxiety, depression, like managing expectations, and then also just like when things happen, like learning how to like deal with my emotions and process things in a healthy way. But I will say that definitely made CPK a lot harder. And so I think that there was just like so much relief that I felt yesterday when I finished my exam. Like, whew, we're done with CPK, because like every time like I feel like something would come back up from like renal 1, I'd just be like, it just like brought me back to that place of like I was going through so much that I could like barely take care of myself, that I couldn't handle like all of medical school at the same time. So I just like kept feeling like I was behind, but I didn't really know what to do about it. And in hindsight, like I probably should have reached out to like our dean of students and like just gotten assistance, because like she knew about everything that was going on with me mentally, but like I didn't like ask for accommodations or anything for the exams, which like I should have. But you know, like we made it, we passed everything, whoop-de-doo, that's great. So I'm super excited. On Monday we're starting GERD, which is gastroenterology and reproductive reproductive disease. I don't know the acronym stands for. I will figure that out, but it's like gastroenterology and then like female male reproductive systems and things like that. So I'm just excited because like I can start fresh and I won't like start feeling behind how I did for the other one. But aside from like all of the difficulties and everything that happened within CPK, like it was so exciting to finally be in our first organ systems block, because I felt like I was finally learning like diseases and things that I will be able to apply to my future career. And we've been doing these fun simulation centers where we go to our sim center, and it's like we get into like teams of like 5 or 6, and there's a mannequin dummy, but like they're really smart because like you can listen to heart sounds, listen to lung sounds, like they blink, they sweat, all that stuff. It's so cool. And they have like a chief complaint, they come in and like we take care of them. And so our last one that we had a couple days before this last exam was critical care. So it was just really integrating like everything we learned from cardiopulm and renal all together, which was like super cool, because I was able to be like, okay, like actually read the monitor, read the EKG, determine what medicines would do what. And so I feel like it's super exciting, because in that moment it's just like, wow, like I'm actually learning like what I came here to learn, and learning how to take care of patients. And that's just super exciting because like, you know, I've always wanted to do medicine. So like I feel like this has just been like my dream since I was a little girl, and I'm finally getting to do that. So it's been great. But aside from that, I think like med school's hard. It's not easy. I'm still figuring out my study techniques. I felt the most confident on this last exam, which was like weird because it was our integrated exam. But so I've been doing like what I talked about. I will make sure you watch my video on like how I study in med school, in terms of like watch outside resources, watch lectures, do ANKI, and then make my study guides. And I slacked on ANKI, but like it was kind of like one of my like goals for 2023 was to be more consistent with ANKI, and I feel like I've done that. I kept up with like all my review cards every day, every weekday. I still haven't done ANKI on the weekends, but you know, growth. You can only expect so much from me. But yeah, so I've been more consistent with ANKI, and then just trying to figure out like what works best in terms of like recalling content. And so you guys know I use Notion. So like a couple days for this last exam, I just went through like my study guide and I made open-ended questions, and just using like I think it's like the drop down feature in Notion or something where you can like write it and then you can hide it. So I could like open the drop down, see the answer, or I could close it and like quiz myself. So I did that, and then like the day before exam, we usually do like a study group together, and so we kind of just went through all those questions that I made, and then we like talked about it, and I thought it was super helpful, and I felt really confident on this exam, so I think I'm gonna do that again. I did it for like the first couple of exams, but I feel like then I was like just experimenting with everything, and I didn't really know like how to use Notion. And so I felt like it was taking me more time to like format the Notion, and like I was just trying like too many different things all at once. But I feel like now that I have my, you know, baseline, what works for me in terms of studying, I can like supplement as needed for certain exams, certain content areas, because like you just can't study everything in the same way. So enough about CPK. It was great, but I'm super glad it's over. Super glad that finally taking control of like my mental health and getting that handled, because like, yeah. And on Monday, we are starting with anatomy, and I don't know how to feel about that. So we have like anatomy week with every content block, and so we had anatomy week for CPK, and then we had a quiz at the end, and like I felt like it took me until like Wednesday of that week to even figure out like what was happening, and then it took me like, and then I was like, hold on, how do I want to study anatomy? Because you can't study anatomy like how you study everything else, because it's more visual. And then like by the time I figured it out, like there wasn't enough time, because our quiz was more like an exam, was on that Friday. So I just felt like that was like super stressful, and a lot of my classmates agreed. And one thing that I love is like our admin, they realize that it's a new curriculum, like everything might not be perfect, so they're super willing to take our input. And so for anatomy week for GERD, we are still having like anatomy week, but instead of like having to take our exam on Friday, like it's going to be integrated into our next like exam with all the content. So I think that will be super helpful, just because we'll be able to like integrate it into actually like the physiology, pathophysiology, rather than having to learn it, have it solidified, and like essentially cramming to take the quiz at the end of the week. So I think it'll just be like a less stressful environment and more low stakes, which will just allow me to like actually learn anatomy and enjoy it. So I am super looking forward to that. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot happening coming up over the next couple of months. It's currently like middle of February. Next weekend, my sister will come to visit. And then a couple weekends after that, I'm gonna go on a trip through my school, and then I'm gonna go on spring break, and then I'm gonna go to the AMEC conference through SNMA. So there's a lot happening. So I guess GERD is going to be super busy in terms of like what I have going on outside of school, but I just feel like now that I've gone through my first organ systems block, you know, lessons were learned, and I'm ready to tackle the next one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, listening to my update on all things life, medical school, and everything in between. Make sure if there are any videos that you want to see, make sure to drop those in the comments below, and just thank you guys so much for being a part of my journey.